With the trade wind singing in the palms, the Polynesians put on fancy dress and greet you with a dance as colourful as a Rarotongan dawn.
Who am I? Am I just an object? Am I just a representation? Am I just exotic?
If you're fair and you have a Eurocentric nose and your hair's long and wavy and you can sway your hips, then you have a better chance of someone who isn't.
Makes you feel like that's not where people like you belong.
I'm like, oh, that's so sad that we amount our beauty to our proximity to whiteness.
Old white men have always been guided by their penis, I think.
I think the most problematic element of the ongoing dusky maiden trope is it's still just below the consciousness when you see the way we are looked at and perceived by white people in certain settings and the way that we are controlled, certainly in the media, how we are fashioned to look like some kind of second-rate white woman. So it's still happening.
Right from the 1700s, we have these tropes that have endured for centuries of this paradise, benign, non-threatening, sexually beautiful, desirable people in the Pacific.
Now, in our culture, prior to the arrival of Europeans, women and men have equal access to power, to control, and to their sexuality. When we signed the treaty and became British citizens, that was a time when women were chattels in Britain. They were literally owned by their fathers until they were given away in marriage. They had no rights, and they were the people who colonised the Pacific.
There are a whole range of different ideologies that were used to justify colonisation. And one of them was this ideology called manifest destiny. God has destined you to come and have this place. I'm sorry, everyone else that's there, but this is our destiny. So it's not just one philosopher or one ideology, it's a whole network of these. And then when you build in the missionary influence as well, that had significant effect on the way that belief systems changed.
So we have had hundreds of years of patriarchy shaping and defining our identity, which then condemned us to the subservient role as the savage, the native, harlots and whores.
Polynesian women in postcards and a whole range of different paintings are constructed to offer pleasure. And often they will be offering something like fruit or a lei.
And if she gives you a lei and she welcomes you, that image and that expectation doesn't just make you believe you can have the place, but it also makes you believe that it's our responsibility to give it to you. The image of the hula girl has been central in selling the land. The hula maiden is positioned in the forefront to welcome you, to make you believe that what you are coming to, you can take. So you can come to Hawaii, you can experience Hawaii, and then you can take it away in your fantasy. And hey, if you like it enough, come back and buy a piece of property, because you probably have enough money to buy it from the people who can't afford it.
Over 90% of the world's pineapples are grown and packed in Hawaii.
Women were employed to help growers' associations sell pineapples, for example. Even though pineapple's not indigenous to Hawaii, these objects of desire, these objects of interest, they became commodities themselves as they were helping to sell commodities. They're exotic fruit, just like the women, and you can consume both. And the Western male gaze and imagination wants to consume both and fantasize about both.
Still similar nowadays. as outsiders feel they can become landowner through women. That's sad and that's revolting as well, because people haven't evolved from the 18th century when this stereotype was created.
We know that it is not a true representation of the Pacific. That is a very romantic, colonial representation, and it reinforces racism, you know, as to what is the ideal concept of beauty.
Whiteness was seen as the apex of this hierarchy, and blackness was seen as the very lowest. And Polynesian skin was this midway point in terms of their colour of their skin.
Which means they are more acceptable, still less than, but more acceptable.
Melanesian women are more represented in the tribal image side of things. So we're very angry, scary, aggressive side, less glamorized. It's seen as this ancient, very from like before.
A lot of postcards of Melanesian women don't position them in that kind of exotic reclining way. They are often doing some kind of work. You never see that in Polynesian postcards. Often there is more of a range in terms of the age of Melanesian women, whereas for Polynesian women, they're young girls. They're not older women. In the late 1800s, the post-impressionist artist Paul Gauguin, who many of us will be familiar with, spent the last around decade of his life in Tahiti and the Marquesas. And his paintings absolutely fixed young, often adolescent women in particular, in these timeless tropes of the exotic maiden. And the tourist industry since then, right up into the present, have built on this kind of persona. And so it's almost become part of our collective imagination and memory.
When I was in high school, I thought seeing Paul Gauguin's paintings of the Tahitian women, I thought that was the best because I could just see that these were women who were this type of brown that I was and that were, you know, shapely and their form was very different. But what that also meant that old mate was bringing STIs to the islands. Thank you, Gauguin. That's this whole reality of depicting these women as exotic beauties, but then the reality is really tragic.
His way of seeing women and his way of considering women, I mean, it's nowadays he would be considered as a pedophile.
Ah, Tahiti. I will find authentic sauvage pussy. I will live free as an animal, tranquil and free. I will strip these girls out of their mother habits. I'll make them sit in authentic poses, strip them and make them my virgins, hold their own titties like a bowl of mangoes. She is 13, 14, 15, 16, no more than 17.
And it's even sadder to see how he considered teenagers at the time, like just potential sexual partners. So, was Gauguin a rapist? Coming through Tahiti just to enjoy his time with underage girls? That's awful. As a mother, I could not look at him in the eye. No.
Hawaii is a paradise. That's how it exists in the imagination. I think it's really important that we get beyond the postcard. Otherwise, that's all you'll see and all you'll expect. What the postcard doesn't show you is the reality of being a Hawaiian woman. We come from a place that is deeply pained. If you are Hawaiian, you are more likely to be incarcerated, more likely to die early, more likely to be undereducated, more likely to be marginalized, more likely to be without land, more likely to not speak your language, all the more likelies.
The stereotype is erasing the reality. If we look at the postcards, the tourism advertisements, even the filmmaking industry, I mean, all Tahitian women should be young, athletic, slim with a BMI under 25, lustful and sexy. Obviously, if you see that image and take it for account, I'm no Tahitian woman at all.
And it has been very damageable for all women in the Pacific. My grandmothers and ladies before me, we are all living the consequences of this representation.
There's the expectation that you act a certain way, that you are a certain way, that you're always happy, that you're always peaceful, that you don't resist, and that you see a rise in sexual violence, in sex trafficking, because there is that expectation that you're there to service.
That creates in young Pacific women like me this lack of trust in foreigners coming, and so we want to avoid any contacts with them.
There are still huge disparities for Pacific women across the Pacific, including here in Aotearoa. We are the most poorly represented in so many of the statistics, whether that be the pay disparities, whether that be health outcomes, and so there's so much work to do.
I'm very vocal about being raised by a single mum on the benefit. Moving over 20 times across Tamaki, experiencing homelessness, being in a refuge, those kind of things are my reality and so many people's realities. It's tough out here. Thousands of our young people are working 20 to 50 hours a week to help their families make ends meet, and they're made to feel shame. But there's a thing not only with poverty, the material poverty, there's poverty of aspiration.
Media is hugely responsible for how we have conditioned people to believe what is acceptable in the way we talk, the way we look, the way we think, and reframed who we are in a way that's not a correct and true representation.
And if we think about it, the largest populated countries in the Pacific are Papua New Guinea, Solomon Islands, Vanuatu, and Fiji as well. But we are not as represented in the media. But you feel invisible. Even if you look at music videos, TV, what tends to be promoted is the fine features, not a broad nose like mine.
And like, that's not what I look like. But not seeing that, it's like not very representative of who we are as Melanesia.
The first Polynesian kind of blockbusters like Return to Paradise, etc., the key dusky maiden was actually Palangi or Afakasi.
I would tell you something strange. Before I saw you, all white men looked the same to me.
That's what white men say about you people.
And then what that did over time, because this was something that they had seen again and again and again, was it created this mentality that slightly whiter skin was actually more beautiful.
Have you heard of the brown paper bag test? You know, you hold up a brown paper bag, and if you're darker than the brown paper bag, then, you know, there's like a stigma around that. It's a whole thing rooted in colorism.
I think Palangi, you see us Melanesian women is closer to like African Americans. When I go for casting agents and then they're like, can you do an American accent? Can you do a British accent? Because that would like up your chances of getting cast. I feel like I have to like work twice as hard to put myself out there for it.
I acknowledge my privilege of being lighter skin, and even as a plus-size woman, I'm an acceptable form of plus size. And so I acknowledge that when spaces market themselves as diverse, I'm probably the girl that they're going to go with.
I think about colorism, I think about fatphobia in our communities. Both of those things depend on how close are we to this thin, pale person. The way that capitalism and colonialism thrives is off shame. And so we're made to feel that we're not enough. And the beauty industry makes billions of dollars off us feeling not enough.
And that has painted a picture of us that has lingered, not only in the minds of the coloniser, but in our own interpretation of ourselves.
If you think about Hollywood and the way that Hollywood glamorized the hula girl, that helped to heighten this image in the Western imagination. But it also helped to heighten that image in the Pacific imagination as well.
I struggle against those representations, even in our mind.
Our own families do it to us, and it can be really damaging. I remember when my sister was born, everyone was just obsessed with her because she's very fair. And so she was like the favorite child because she was just light-skinned and everyone loved her and she has blue eyes. And it really instilled in me this really weird feeling of oh, how come my sister gets all these beautiful comments and everyone wants to take her out and do things with her, and I've been here for this many years and no one's done that to me.
My mum really, I love her. And she really tried to keep me into this, stay out of the sun. Stay out of the sun, don't get too dark, oil on the skin, oil on the hair. But look, I've got heritage from Fiji and my hair is like super tight coils that just won't listen to what I wanted to do. You go through those moments where you just wish you weren't in this body, in this skin.
But when we moved to Samoa and I went to school, and I didn't realize just how bad it was being darker than other Samoans. I never knew you could get called burnt toast. And burnt toast basically means you're too dark, When there's burnt toast, they normally scrape off all the blackness, to get the toast that you can eat. Sometimes you were just called meoli. And meoli generally means black thing.
Meoli. I'm proud of my skin color, so how am I going to defend myself while also trying to relay that it doesn't bother me that my skin is the way that it is, but it bothers me the way that you use that term and the way that you hope it affects me. How uncomfortable is it to talk about this subject? It's very uncomfortable. And I think it just goes back to that whole insecurity of, do I even have the right to talk about this? Is this even an important topic? Boo-hoo, poor little brown girl. If you're not being hurt physically, bleeding over it, is it something to even worth discussing? A girl's sense of self-worth, it's already quite vulnerable. To kind of say that someone is lesser than just because of the color of their skin. What do you do to a little brown girl when you tell her that she's not good? You destroy her sense of being loved. You create a void within her heart and her soul that she'll start finding different ways, all the wrong ways to fill that void. And you shape a woman that's willing to take love and affirmation in any form, even if it's a hurtful or dysfunctional form.
It is a type of sadness, then, that we aspire to beauty standards we didn't create. Pacific Island judgment based on appearance, again, is really something that we've inherited. That's it, really.
Colonisation seeps through every pore of your being, and the coloniser is the power that defines beauty. Part of unpicking colonisation is also understanding that we have power. And so, in many ways, we are halfway towards our own liberation. We have power to change the narrative, to change the story.
When we think about beauty standards or body standards around shape and size, we diminish ourselves, we ruin it. We're literally squashing something that almost, physically doesn't fit in many cases.
When you say Miss Pacific Island or Miss South Pacific competitions, it's just another version of colorism in a very public forum, and it's very accessible, and I think that's one of the dangers of it.
She would preferably be tall, skinny, her features nice and feminine and small. I mean, who else has small features? The Afrikasis, obviously. And those preferences are not only within the public, but also within the committee that are hosting these pageants, and also the judges.
Like the color of your skin, your hair texture, your build, having a more feminine talent, the swaying hips and all that.
I was from a rough background. I was taken off of the streets in Maidens province just to take part as Miss Papua New Guinea. But it was intimidating seeing very tall contestants in that pageant who were also very light-skinned, and I was the darkest. To be the only Melanesian here, really. Right. And I think it was God's purpose for me to bring out this message. I'm black as the cocoa abundant on my land, as the night sky that guided my ancestors following the Southern Cross, and as my people of the Pacific, different shades but one and the same. We are black, we are beautiful, and we are the magnificent Pacific.
The current reigning Miss Pacific Islands 2018 is Miss Papua New Guinea, Leoshina Mercy Kariha.
I did feel like an atmosphere change when I went up to say my speech. From the bottom of my heart, I first acknowledge it was uncomfortable on stage, lots of yelling, and being called black and ugly. I was a very young girl at that time. I was 18.
If you have a very dark queen in the pageantry here in the Pacific, it doesn't absolve you from any name calling, blackie, or, just Meuli. I don't like the word Meuli. It's just thrown out as a descriptive color. It does so much damage because words, woof, they pack a punch.
Let's welcome our new Miss South Pacific, Miss Fiji.
There was a YouTube snippet of the crowning, and then I scrolled through the comments and someone said, why is she built like a rugby player? Something like that. And so I was like, is this really what you want to subject young women to? It even inspired me to become one of the board members and becoming a chair for the pageant, because I really wanted to change some of these things. My favorite part after winning was that we went back a few months later, and I was just going through the stalls, and then this couple of young girls, they ran up to me and they're like, it's the Miss, it's the Miss. And then they came and said hello, and they're like, oh, Mbula Vinaka. And then they're like, we love you so much. And then one of them was like, I love your answer from the pageant when you said, and verbatim, word for word, my answer for my public speaking question, she just recited the whole thing. Our societies are entitled to leadership which is representative, enlightened, progressive, yet is culturally and gender sensitive. We, the women of Pasifika, are entitled to no less. I think they might have been replaying the pageant. That's why she knew it all by heart. And she was so excited to share it. And I was like, the goal was, if we can help influence or encourage one young girl in the village, then job done. We can still find ways to celebrate our culture as practiced by young women, our language, the way we dress, the way we dance, and all the beautiful things that are portrayed within the pageant, as well as the incentives of winning a pageant, of being able to travel and to represent your country and be an ambassador without being subjected to these colonial standards of beauty. And again, always going back to think of those coming after us.
Sometimes pageants are our escape. You know, we just want to see like pretty girls on the stage and be happy and talk about world peace. How do we really take advantage of the eyes that's looking at us and to not conform to what is expected of us just to be seen and not heard?
What I would say is that we need to unveil the parts of our culture that no one wants to look at. 9 in 10 women in Samoa is said to experience violence. With a statistic like that, of my sisters here, only 2 of them are safe from violence if they were living in Samoa. There's silence in this room right now, but I know that all of us know what I'm talking about. But that silence is dangerous. There is a lot of violence against women. There's a lot of abuse of our children, and there's a lot of incest that happens in our villages.
I was really scared. I wanted to talk about those who fall through the cracks. And that's not saying that it only happens in Samoa. I just wanted to tell the truth and speak from my heart. And I've gotten messages from people as young as 14 and then as old as 63. I got a message from a 63-year-old woman who said it's the first time she told her husband about the abuse she experienced in her village. I don't take that lightly. Like, I really held those stories in such high regard and in sacredness because I wanted those people to feel seen. We can challenge what we are taught to conform into, what we are taught to sit like, be like, talk like, look like, because we know that that's not a generational lesson we want to pass on to our daughters.
For women like me, it's a sad reality, but I knew that I had to conform. We're very pressured by, I guess, that mindset, you know, the white standards of beauty. Being a fafine or being a trans person, it's very, very hard. Our parents are conditioned, you know, with influences like religion. So even with my parents accepting me, my dad specifically, it wasn't until I got a job in the airlines, you know, as ground services and as a flight attendant. And then once my dad came to that realization that I can still be successful, like a lot of fafines, parents are scared, I guess, of like the realities of our lives or where we go. Coming into my transness, into my womanhood, I've definitely felt the pressures of having to look a certain way in order to be successful, in order to survive, in order for, you know, the mockery to stop. Because I feel like for a lot of Samoan people, the existence of a fafine is a mockery.
Keep it fresh!
I had a very dense experience of culture at home. Then I'd go to school and it was a very different story out in the burbs in Western Australia. My mum, all she was trying to uphold is like maybe just to kind of conserve things, like don't rock the boat, you know, essentially. Don't disturb the peace.
We are Hot Brown Honey! And welcome to the house.
I laugh all the time, I smile all the time. You know, I had a gap in my teeth, my hair does this. You know, trying to fit into that box of the dusky maiden stories of like long, beautiful, kind of straight, wavy hair that was way manageable and a tall, slender body that is light-skinned. It was the thing that I was very much the opposite. The shame that happens in those spaces, it can go from, oh, you're too big to be in this space. You're too big to look at. We're just so kind of wound up to be very constricted. It's like if you're a bigger person and you think that holding your tummy in, right, is the best way to like navigate the world, because then people will see you a little bit smaller, right? To let go of that breath and not care and do things that are right for you, it really opens a whole big gate to expressing yourself or understanding your needs and your wants.
I had a story on the radio and my kids were listening to it. And then at the end, I sent to my kids, oh, that was my story. And they were like, huh? Like, they just did not recognise that was me. They said to me, oh, you sound like a white lady. And then that was the first time I kind of thought, like, you know, who am I? Like, and I realised I had conditioned myself to be more presentable to a wider mainstream audience in New Zealand. But it was a survival thing. I do remember growing up, I would do this thing with my hair where I'd brush it straight down and pull it back to make it look as straight as possible and look in the mirror, think about what it would look like to have a short, straight bob. That was like a dream for me. And definitely didn't think that wearing my natural hair was beautiful when I was 10 or 15. You know, I've been using that Dax and that iron on that iron board for a very long time, trying to straighten the culture out of me and, you know, change myself to look pretty much to what Western beauty standards would say is beauty. You know, having to be pushed to challenge my own beliefs about whether I'm beautiful or not in my natural state. I just had this huge conflict about, like, I cannot go on a camera without my hair straightener.
Welcome to Breakfast, Malo Pongi. Kia ora ana i te iupopongi. It's great to have you with us. They obviously can make a bit of the details.
So when I went out on air and had my hair like this for the first time, I knew the statement that I was going to be making, not only to New Zealand, but to Pasifika women, Pasifika girls everywhere. And the next day, my social media inboxes and my emails were flooded with people, dads even, saying, oh, my daughter has curly hair, she doesn't know what to use, what do you put on your hair? And, you know, and people saying, I love your hair. You know, we all have to do it. We all have to strip off those layers of the stereotypes that have, you know, come with colonisation about who we are. And it's hard, it's not easy.
Perform and be a fraud. All right, we're on.
There have definitely been challenges working in media. And like, I look back at hair and makeup, obviously, is just part of the whole gig, right? And I'm like, Fijian, I've got Fijian hair. And one instance that does come to mind, I remember going in to get my hair done and it took so long for them to get through my hair, and like just the comments of like, oh, I didn't realize your hair was like this, or, oh, like you've got like Afro type texture hair. And even just like those small comments actually make you feel so crap because you're like, it's just my hair. Second part to that was sometimes going in and they didn't have my foundation color and having to see people take another person's color. And I'm like, that's not my foundation color whatsoever. And just the awkwardness of having to see them like try and make up a color for me. So I just spoke to my manager. I'm like, I need my foundation. Like, I need my own foundation when I go in there. I've been to so many people who might be like, oh, it's being precious. And I certainly saw myself as being precious in those moments. But I thought, I deserve to walk into a room and my hair not be fussed about. I think I had the courage to say something because I was hurt by it. And I knew that nothing would change if I didn't use my voice. The best thing about any of the Pasifika shows that I'm currently involved in is that the thing that we're encouraged to do most is to be ourselves. And that's the most important thing.
Good morning, crew.
It's sometimes lost on me how important it is for me to stay in this space And so when I think about my nieces, they now think every time the TV's on, oh, is Auntie Sarah going to be on TV? And I think that's just so cool because when I was growing up, we weren't represented. And when I think about the possible influence that I'm having on the next gen coming through, for them to even believe that they're worthy enough to be on the screen, that to me is so rewarding.
Part of our revolution is about revolutionising what is beauty on our terms and through our lens. And I look at our beautiful young women on the Polyfest stage, and I see women of all shapes and sizes reveling in their beauty and reveling in their power. And I know that mana wahine is being manifest through that level of confidence.
Like, I could feel them behind me singing for me, and it felt like I was glowing, you know? I think, like, with the oil on me as well and my ofu, I just felt so beautiful and powerful because it's a platform to display yourself without, like, being, like, mimika. We, as young brown women, are taught to diminish ourselves and to hide away and cower from, like, attention or anything like that. But the Polyfest stage, all that goes out the window. And so it is a time for us to present ourselves, to be a show-off and to be big and to smile big and, you know, show our attitudes.
Our people are so naturally charismatic and we have this secret sauce about us. And so just flip the camera on and, oh mate, it's over for everyone. Visibility and seeing ourselves is so integral because it means it's like, wow, I'm important. My story is important. And then therefore we pass that down to generations. They see themselves, it's like, it's the norm, and they enter spaces not feeling like imposters. You know, I think in 10 years, 1 in 3 births in Tamaki Makaurau and Auckland are going to be Pacific. So we deserve to be in the spotlight. We deserve to be the main characters.
And we do that one story, one song, one artwork at a time.
I deserve to be in these spaces that are predominantly white. I think now there's been a change, a shift in our industry, which is amazing.
Wait for it. Now.
How I wish that this love that I feel was as real as it seems.
Inky Pinky Punky, you know, 1.5 million views. And what about it? Our main character is Tongan, trans woman.
I know my name says Lewis on the roll, but I'd prefer if you called me Lisa, if that's okay.
It makes me feel like I'm worth being here. I'm like, I'm allowed to be here.
Just the difference in the way our kids hold themselves. And that is why it is so important for our own women to control our narratives. This talk story here is very important.
I think it really drives home the importance of having Melanesian stories. It's more than just entertainment for us, because I think a lot of us get validation from, like, oh yeah, that's what I look like. I'm really grateful and I'm really, like, proud that the whole crew of Hiama was Melanesian. It's very liberating, like, knowing that there's a space there that's set and safe for me to step into. And I just feel really, like, excited knowing that you can, like, search up something from Melanesia and Hiama will be there.
Guess who's coming to dinner, motherfucker? The fierce awaken, center stage. It's time to rock the boat. Fuck the patriarchy, but no!
Hot Brown Honey is all about bringing voices that have been quiet for too long out to the forefront. And it's an explosive, energetic, vivacious, sassy dedication to the matriarchy.
You are not the maid.
What we do in Hot Brown Honey is sort of like magnify everything. We sort of take every idea to the extreme to either shine a light on how ridiculous it is or to blow that stereotype apart.
Aloha. Welcome to Hawaii, the ultimate holiday destination. Tourists from all over the world.
Aloha with the hoops is sort of to pull apart that tourist that just comes and does everything that they shouldn't be doing. Lilikoi, who is Hawaiian, being able to reclaim that narrative and, in a funny way, shining a light on maybe we shouldn't do this anymore.
Do not touch my hair.
You get a whole punch in the face with what our experiences are, and we don't hold back. You know, we're not trying to play polite about it either.
The Samoan is a master of the weaving art. A new dress is merely a problem of going out and cutting some grass, then weaving it.
I guess I sort of fit into that, you know, European narrative because of the way that I look. I am fairer, Pasifika, and I think that's why I chose to pull it apart and own it in a different way. And I think there are also a lot of taboos around our bodies and sort of reconnecting to what we were able to be before colonization, before, you know, Christianity.
Not just talking about making noise in that space. We're talking about get it in your body to stand up physically, to wake up, to rise up. Because there will be a time where we have to speak for those people that really just don't have that platform, that don't have that opportunity. They are still in the space where they probably don't feel safe enough to be able to project their voice.
It begins with a nurse measuring me, height and weight. She leaves and returns with a look on her face and says, blah, blah, blah. Body mass index, blah, blah, blah. Do you know about food? Blah, blah, blah. You big fat brown bitch. She doesn't actually say you big fat brown bitch, but she means you big fat brown bitch. She also means you big fat brown lazy bitch. You big fat brown stupid bitch. And you big fat brown worthless bitch. I don't tell her that I know that the body mass index was invented by a man named Adolf. A white man measuring white men's bodies as a measure of the social ideal in 1830. Boom time of racist science, genocide, and colonization.
I'm big, fat, and brown, and that is not a popular body to be in.
You've been messing with some fat ass bitches. You don't know about me. I'm that bitch with the curves. Unzip me, bit me over, lick my tits like the air. Measure me up, measure me down. You can't handle this part. Hip replacement, Dr. Police officer, bitch, that ain't her.
Brown women are my most important audience, and brown girls. And that thing about joy in the brown body as a brown woman being an act of colonial resistance, I mean, that's the best thing I can do.
Category is officially open.
We all have our own stories. We all have our own truth. Specifically with ballroom, we're starting to have more positive representation around who we are as people. So that is our own story.
Ballroom has definitely been one of the most safest spaces that I've entered. It's a space where it lets me be who I am and be all these different things, you know? It lets me be proud of my body. It lets me sit into my femininity. It's just a space where no one judges you. Whina Whātau has brought out a lot of my confidence. There were a lot of Pahalangi people that came to watch Whina Whātau. Also Viva. I'm like, wow, these like people are paying to see big brown bodies, different shapes on stage. So yeah, it helps with a lot of my self-confidence and self-worth and where I am as a young Pasifika creative artist.
It's been pretty amazing to see the world celebrate Paris as a Pasifika woman. And I think that's really impacted our young women that we work with today. They see her, they're inspired by her. She is their role model, and they know that if someone like Paris from South Auckland, who is Samoan, who is creative, who is showing her whole self as a thick brown woman, our young women know that it's okay and that they are worthy and they can achieve the same thing that Paris has. So it's the exhibition. It's really a celebration of Pacifica young women being brown and beautiful in their own unique way. Our young women come with different shades of brown, different body shapes, different types of hair. And what's cool is that they also come from different Pacifica cultures. So when you see them, they're all dressed in their own cultural, unique wear, and they're just celebrating who they truly are. This is the tip of the iceberg that you're seeing in this exhibition. Underneath the tip is so much work that we've had to do through education, through our soft skills, through our creative arts, in our workshops.
What's really special about us is we run workshops and programs that use creative arts to help these girls become more confident and to tell their story. Our Māori and PI girls have so much to share, but I don't think they have enough platform to share it, on. All these children that I teach at the studio, I know a lot of them come from rough backgrounds or broken homes. That's why I created the studio, is to create a home and somewhere safe and somewhere that they can come to and feel that they have a bright future and that they can do anything they want to do.
We, Indigenous people of Pasifika, we have to find our own path in this world. And our knowledge from our ancestors would one day help us to go far again. And it is important to be what we are and not this image, this perception, representation of us.
Cultural confidence can support whatever our other goals and aspirations are. It's integral to helping us, I believe, as Pacific women, get ahead. It's very difficult to get ahead in any space if we don't acknowledge, recognise, celebrate who we are.
My own insecurities that I used to experience in my mid-20s, they're now gone because I'm so much more rooted to the Pasifika woman that I've seen in my life, and that has shaped who I am and how I think of myself today.
Knowing your heritage is a very important aspect in your identity.
As mothers and grandmothers who have to believe in the future, our job is also to be activists. Activists for Papatuanuku, activists for our mokopuna. And that means finding truth, sharing truth. Tino rangatiratanga starts first with us. Tino is us, putting the leadership back into our soul.
there have been sovereignty movements, activist movements, land protection movements that give our young people enough counter images to say, hey, that's not the only image. I can be like that auntie who's dancing on a road to save a mountain. And that is Hawaiian woman to me.
Continue to speak your truth and what you believe needs to be heard, because your daughters and your nieces and those who come after you, it won't be as scary for them.
Black Lives Matter!
I love the change of attitude with the next generations that are coming forward. Having the autonomy to tell your own story online.
Obviously, there's heaps of negatives about social media, but one thing that's positive is the taking away the power from traditional forms of media, and it shifts the dynamics and it gives us the opportunity to be our real selves. This whole generation of young people who can speak to issues without any shame.
You have all these island sisters with their hair out, their lava, whatever size or shape they're in. And on the comments section, everybody is embracing them.
Speaking to other Pacific women, I hope it gives them the knowledge that we're all connected so that they can feel less alone.
That's just the beauty of the Pacific and how we treat each other. It's just unmatched. And I'm so grateful to be a Pacific woman, to be Samoan 685.
Hot brown honey, hot brown honey, hot brown honey!
It needs that spirit to kind of garner everybody together, to really uplift themselves and uplift each other.
When I think about how blessed we all are as Pacific people to have a connection to an island home, the secrets that the ocean and the land give you when you're here to hear it, to feel it, to learn about it, that's a different type of beauty that Western people don't experience. Secrets that you can't learn anywhere else.
What makes a beautiful Pacific woman? Oh, that is a deep question. What makes it beautiful? Her mana. You walk in the room and you say nothing because your mana speaks for you.
I find like beauty in like hyena laughs. Like as soon as I hear the hyena laughs, I'm like, oh, I feel at home, I feel safe.
It's really important for young women, young girls who look like me, who are dark-skinned, that they feel that they belong.
One of the things that we always talked about in our family in a loving way was the color of our skin. The darker skinned members of our family, they were always referred to as having the royal skin color because that was the skin color of our ancestors.
My hope for little brown girls is that they recognize their power and that words that have been fed to you from your society, they just slip off you, like coconut oil.
Leilani, if you're watching this, all Mummy wants to say to you is whatever anybody says about your hair or about your skin, because, girl, we are the 50 shades of brown, just hold your head up high. Don't let anybody get you down.
Break that pinky promise.
The reason why we walk into the room so confidently is because we've had strong women who had to move in both worlds and had to maybe hold their tongue and not say things in certain times because they're thinking about the long game.
I realise what a gift it is to be born a Pacific Polynesian Māori woman because we're allowed to be strong and opinionated and sassy.
It's a radical thing to love yourself in any depiction that you can see before you. How dare you love yourself is what the world tells you.
Brown Pasifika women, queer, MVP, faf, like, bitch, this is our time.
And to be able to navigate, be proud of who you are, and own it.
You've all put your foot in the door to keep it open so that we can see the light.
Not timorously tapping at the window asking to be let in.
No, actually not first, because it's respectful. Take off your shoes and then kick the door down. Because it's our time to change the story. Period.
Ask yourself, how far back in history did a missionary come and set the path for a colonist to come? And how far from then until now have those colonist ways been embedded in frameworks and structures that inject isms like racism, classism, all those different types of isms. And if you want to change it, bloody vote, man.